Hi there everybody, Siggy Seroka with another weekly weather explainer for you, and this time we are talking about air masses because, believe it or not, these are the larger bodies of air that sit over a certain part of the earth, and during different times of the year they expand, provide warmer temperatures, why we see really warm air sometimes in the southern half of the country, in the south really high temperatures, or really cold temperatures in the winter. So the first one we're going to talk about here is maritime tropical. Maritime is really just that air mass is over a body of water. Tropical is obviously where it falls along the globe latitude wise. We are seeing air masses that are maritime tropical way down here in the eastern Pacific. You even have it right here through the Gulf of Mexico and through the southern Atlantic or central Atlantic, that would be. It is what kind of helps create a lot of hurricane activity that we might see, or tropical storms or tropical depressions that move through these islands like Cuba down here, even up into Florida and up through the Gulf. Now you can also see it on land, that tropical air, but it's forming over a continent. So it's continental tropical, as it's labeled, pretty self-explanatory, but this leads to some monsoonal rain we typically see that leads to large amounts of flooding in Texas, even Arizona at times, and it's very damaging rains. So while these are mainly air masses, they pull in lots of moisture from the oceans as well as lots of cold temperatures, like once we move a little further north to the northern half of the United States. You get that maritime polar, which is cold air coming in off both the Atlantic and the Pacific. These temperatures, because we're so far from the equator, never really rise in that water. No matter how much sun they're getting, they never really get super warm. So even through the summer, you typically get the cooler air coming in off the coast. As we know, some of that coastal breeze that cools us down, pumps in some cold air through the gaps of the Cascades. Or as we begin to head into winter, we start to see a lot of that northern jet stream begin to drop down, and we get a lot of that continental polar air, that cold air that comes off of dry land, or at least over areas that aren't always covered in snow but can still be cold. And as we get into the deeper part of winter, we start to see more of this continental Arctic air that drops a little further south. And this is some really cold air kind of heading up towards the North Pole, not quite at it, but this typically comes from some of the coldest areas on Earth. It's even down in the southern hemisphere, obviously. It gets a little bit different, but in the northern one, we see a lot of this Arctic air actually make its way down, and this helps feed into nor'easters that lead to that heavy snow we always hear about falling in New York and even down into Buffalo, where they get up to 4 feet in one evening. So definitely interesting how these different air masses work around the globe and how they impact our weather month in and month out. For more news and weather updates, stay right here on the Nonstop Local streaming channel.